The skies above Earth were torn apart by waves of shimmering light, like ripples on an endless cosmic ocean. One by one, colossal alien ships descended from the heavens, their metallic hulls glowing faintly with an otherworldly energy. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, massive, sleek, and unnervingly silent as they hovered above the major cities of the world. Their sheer size dwarfed even the tallest skyscrapers, casting entire metropolises into shadow. Crowds gathered in the streets, their faces turned upward in awe and fear. The air was thick with tension, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. The ships bore no visible weapons, but their mere presence felt like a threat. Their surfaces gleamed with an iridescent sheen, reflecting the sunlight in shifting hues of blue and silver. Strange symbols, glowing softly, pulsed along their sides in a rhythm that almost seemed alive. The sky, once a familiar expanse of blue, now felt alien, a canvas for these titanic visitors who had come unbidden. In homes, offices, and public squares, every screen flickered to life. A figure appeared, standing tall and composed. Thaler, the envoy of the Lyran Assembly, spoke with a voice that seemed to resonate in the bones of those who heard it. His tone was melodic, almost hypnotic, but there was an unsettling undercurrent like a song slightly out of tune. His pale blue skin shimmered under the lights, and his elongated eyes, far too large for his face, seemed to pierce through the screen and into the hearts of his audience. "People of Earth," he began, his words flowing like liquid silver. "We are the Lyran Assembly, emissaries of the Dominion Syndicate. Your species has reached a pivotal moment in its evolution. You have begun to grasp the edges of the cosmos, to reach beyond the confines of your small world. But the galaxy is vast. It is dangerous. Without guidance, you will falter. We are here to offer you that guidance." The words were honeyed, but their sweetness carried a bitter undertone. Thaler's gaze swept the room he stood in, though it felt as though he was looking directly at every human watching. He spoke of peace, of progress, of sharing knowledge that would elevate humanity to the stars. But beneath the surface of his promises lay something darker, an implication of control, of submission disguised as protection. In a small, dimly lit room far from the public eye, Commander Elias Kane watched the broadcast in silence. His jaw tightened as the alien's words washed over him. A veteran pilot with decades of military service, Elias had seen enough to recognize the subtle threat woven into Thaler's speech. The Dominion's promises of peace felt hollow, their offer of guidance a thinly veiled leash. Elias's hands clenched into fists as he studied Thaler's face. The alien's expression was calm, serene even, but there was something cold behind those enormous eyes, something calculating. The kind of look that came before a trap was sprung. On the screen, Thaler continued, his voice steady and unyielding. "We extend to you the honor of observer status within the Dominion Syndicate. You will have access to certain technologies, to limited trade and exploration. But understand this, the galaxy is not a place for the reckless. Until your species proves itself, you will remain under our protection." The word protection hung in the air like a blade. Elias knew that word well. It was the kind of word used by those who sought to control, to dictate terms under the guise of benevolence. Protection was the language of conquerors who didn't need to fire a single shot. Across the globe, Earth's leaders gathered in emergency meetings. The decision was made quickly, though reluctantly. Humanity was not ready to face the Dominion head-on, not yet. Publicly, they accepted the terms, agreeing to the observer status offered by Thaler. But behind closed doors, whispers began to spread, whispers of resistance, of defiance. Elias could feel it in his bones, the stirring of something greater. Humanity had always been stubborn, unwilling to bow to forces that sought to dominate them. The Dominion might see Earth as a small, insignificant world, but Elias knew his people. He knew their resilience, their ingenuity, their capacity to rise when pushed to the brink. As the broadcast ended, the alien ships remained, their shadows stretching over the cities like silent sentinels. The world felt different now, smaller somehow, as if the very fabric of reality had shifted. But beneath the fear and the awe, a spark began to ignite a quiet rebellion, born in the hearts of those who refused to be told their place in the galaxy. Elias stared out the window at the sky, now filled with the looming presence of the Lyran ships. His mind raced with possibilities, with plans. The Dominion had come to Earth expecting submission, compliance. But they had underestimated humanity's spirit. They had underestimated the fire that burned within those they sought to control. And as Elias turned away from the screen, he made a silent vow. Whatever the cost, whatever the risk, he would not let Earth become just another pawn in the Dominion's game. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and it would not be extinguished. Elias Kane felt the chill in the air long before he saw the entrance to Borealis Outpost. Hidden deep beneath the Arctic ice, this secret base was a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers, carved into the frozen earth like a hidden fortress. The walls glistened with frost, the cold a constant reminder of the isolation and secrecy that surrounded this place. Every breath Elias took was crisp and sharp, mingling with the faint hum of machinery that echoed through the corridors. As he moved deeper into the outpost, the air grew warmer, filled with the sterile scent of technology and the quiet hum of anticipation. The corridors were lined with screens displaying streams of data, their glow casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Technicians and scientists moved with purpose, their faces a mix of determination and anxiety. There was a sense of urgency in the air, a feeling that something monumental was on the horizon. Elias was led to a large chamber where he met Dr. Celeste Marlowe. She was a woman of striking presence, her eyes sharp and inquisitive, filled with a relentless curiosity that seemed to pierce through to the core of anyone she looked at. Her hair, a cascade of silver, caught the light as she turned to greet him, her expression one of both excitement and gravity. "Commander Kane," she said, her voice steady yet tinged with urgency. "Welcome to Borealis Outpost. You're about to witness the culmination of our most daring endeavor." She gestured toward a massive structure that dominated the chamber. It was the S Resolute, humanity's first interstellar warship, a marvel of engineering and ambition. The ship's sleek form was a testament to human ingenuity, its surface a patchwork of human and alien technology, seamlessly integrated into a formidable whole. The hull shimmered with a strange, almost ethereal light, a product of the alien materials that had been painstakingly woven into its design. Celeste's eyes shone with a mixture of pride and defiance as she explained the ship's purpose. "The Resolute is our answer to the Dominion," she said, her voice rising with conviction. "It's built from the scraps of their technology, the remnants they left behind, thinking we wouldn't understand. But we did. We've turned their own advances against them." Elias listened intently, the weight of her words settling heavily upon him. The Resolute was more than just a ship, it was a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for a planet under the shadow of alien domination. It represented humanity's refusal to be cowed, their determination to stand up and fight for their place among the stars. "The mission is simple yet perilous," Celeste continued. "We must find allies, uncover the secrets the Dominion hides, and prove our worth. We need to show the galaxy that we are not a species to be underestimated or controlled." Elias felt a surge of conflicting emotions. The prospect of captaining such a vessel was daunting, the responsibility immense. Yet, beneath his hesitation, there was a flicker of something else, a fierce, unyielding desire to protect the future of Earth, to ensure that humanity's voice would not be silenced. He glanced at the Resolute, its form both beautiful and intimidating. The ship seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a silent promise of power and potential. Elias knew that this was a gamble, a leap into the unknown with no guarantees of success. But he also knew that it was a chance they had to take. With a deep breath, Elias turned to Celeste, his resolve hardening. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of uncertainty within him. "I'll captain the Resolute. For Earth, for our future." Celeste nodded, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "Then let's make history, Commander. Together, we'll show the Dominion what humanity is truly capable of." As Elias prepared to take command, he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, but also the strength of a billion hopes and dreams. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger and challenges, but he was ready. The Resolute, and all it represented, awaited its maiden voyage into the vastness of the galaxy, carrying with it the indomitable spirit of humanity. The night sky was a vast, inky expanse, dotted with stars that shimmered like distant whispers of light. Beneath this celestial canvas, the Resolute stood poised, its sleek form glinting faintly under the pale glow of the moon. The air around the ship felt charged, as if the very fabric of reality was holding its breath, waiting for what was to come. The Resolute's engines hummed softly, their sound a low, steady vibration that seemed to resonate in the bones of everyone aboard. This was no ordinary hum, it carried a strange, almost musical quality, a rhythm born from the alien-inspired prism core that powered the ship. The core itself was a marvel, a crystalline structure that pulsed with shifting colors, like a living prism capturing the essence of light. It was both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder of the alien technology that had been repurposed to fuel humanity's boldest gamble. Inside the ship, the crew moved with quiet awe. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers all handpicked for this mission walked the gleaming corridors, their footsteps echoing softly against the metallic floors. The walls were lined with intricate panels that glowed faintly, their light casting a warm, otherworldly hue. Every detail of the ship felt like a glimpse into the future, a blend of human ingenuity and alien mystery. Elias Kane stood on the bridge, his hands resting on the edge of the command console. The room was alive with activity, the crew working with careful precision as they prepared for the ship's first jump into deep space. Screens displayed streams of data, their symbols and numbers flowing like rivers of information. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, a tension that seemed to vibrate in the very air. Elias's gaze drifted to the vast window before him, a transparent wall that offered an unobstructed view of the night sky. The stars seemed closer now, their light brighter and more vivid. He could feel the enormity of the moment pressing down on him, a weight that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Beyond those stars lay the unknown, a place of infinite possibilities, both wondrous and dangerous. As the final preparations were completed, a voice broke through the quiet hum of the bridge. "Prism core is stable," one of the engineers reported, her voice steady but tinged with awe. "We're ready for the jump, Commander." Elias nodded, his expression calm but his heart pounding in his chest. He turned to the crew, his voice firm yet filled with a quiet determination. "This is it," he said, his words carrying the weight of their shared purpose. "We're stepping into the unknown, not just for ourselves, but for everyone back home. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together." The crew exchanged glances, their faces a mix of apprehension and resolve. They had all known the risks when they signed up for this mission. They had left behind families, friends, and the safety of Earth for a chance to fight for something greater. And now, as the ship prepared to leap into the vast expanse of space, they felt the gravity of their decision more keenly than ever. Elias turned back to the console and gave the order. "Initiate the jump." The prism core flared to life, its colors shifting in a mesmerizing dance of light. The hum of the engines grew louder, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to fill the entire ship. Outside, The stars blurred, their light stretching into streaks as the Resolute prepared to break free from the bounds of Earth's gravity. For a brief moment, there was silence, a stillness so profound it felt as though time itself had paused. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, the Resolute leapt forward, the stars around it vanishing into a swirling vortex of light and shadow. The sensation was unlike anything the crew had ever experienced, a feeling of being pulled and pushed at the same time, as if the very fabric of space was folding around them. As the ship emerged from the jump, the view before them stole the breath from every soul aboard. The darkness of space stretched endlessly in every direction, studded with stars that burned brighter and closer than they ever had on Earth. Nebulas glowed like cosmic paintings, their colors vivid and surreal. It was a sight that defied words, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and humanity's small but determined place within it. Elias stood silently, his eyes fixed on the view. The enormity of their mission weighed heavily on him, but so did the promise it held. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, lay the answers they sought, the allies they needed, the secrets of the Dominion, and the hope of freedom for Earth. The bridge was quiet, the crew lost in their own thoughts as they took in the beauty and the mystery of the cosmos. For a moment, the fear and uncertainty melted away, replaced by a sense of wonder. They were explorers now, pioneers venturing into uncharted territory with nothing but their courage and their resolve to guide them. Elias allowed himself a small, fleeting smile. The road ahead would be perilous, but they had taken the first step. The Resolute was more than just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's unyielding spirit, a testament to their refusal to be bound by fear. "Set course," he said, his voice steady and filled with quiet determination. "Let's see what's out there." And with that, the Resolute moved forward, its engines humming softly as it disappeared into the vast expanse of the unknown, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire planet. The Resolute drifted silently through the void, its sleek form cutting through the endless darkness of space. Ahead, a faint light began to grow, shimmering like a distant star. But as the ship drew closer, the crew realized it wasn't a star at all, it was a planet, encased in an otherworldly glow. The surface glimmered faintly beneath the translucent, shifting barrier of energy that surrounded the entire world like a prison. Elias stood on the bridge, his brow furrowed as he stared at the strange sight before him. The planet was breathtaking, its surface covered in crystalline formations that sparkled like frozen fire under the light of a distant sun. But there was something haunting about it, too, a sense of stillness, of life held captive under the weight of something unnatural. "Commander," one of the scientists whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "We're detecting life forms. Thousands of them, no, millions. But they are all trapped beneath that barrier." Elias's jaw tightened. "Who could do this?" he muttered, though deep down, he already knew the answer. "The Dominion." As the Resolute moved into orbit, a transmission crackled through the comms. It wasn't a voice, but a series of tones and vibrations, like a song made of glass. The crew exchanged confused glances, but the ship's systems quickly translated the message into words. "Who are you? Why have you come?" The voice was calm but carried an edge of desperation, like someone who had long since given up hope but was now clinging to the faintest glimmer of it. Elias stepped forward, his tone steady but filled with empathy. "We're not your enemies. We're here to help, if we can." There was a long pause, and then the voice returned, clearer this time. "We are the Shardari. Once, we were creators, builders, dreamers. But the Dominion feared us. They caged us here, beneath this barrier, to silence our minds and break our spirits." The words hung in the air like a weight pressing down on the crew. Elias felt a cold anger stir within him. The Dominion's cruelty seemed to know no bounds. "Let us meet," Elias said firmly. "We want to understand your plight, and if possible, we'll find a way to free you." Moments later, shimmering beams of light began to coalesce on the bridge, forming the shapes of the Shardari. They were unlike anything the crew had ever seen, tall, crystalline beings whose bodies refracted light into dazzling rainbows. Their forms seemed fragile, yet there was a quiet strength in the way they moved, as if they carried the weight of centuries of suffering with unbroken dignity. The leader of the Shardari stepped forward, its voice resonating like the chime of 1,000 bells. "You are not like the others," it said, its glowing eyes fixed on Elias. "You carry no mark of the Dominion. Why do you risk yourselves to come here?" Elias met the being's gaze, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "Because we know what it's like to fight for survival. The Dominion has oppressed our world, too. We're here to stand against them, and we won't stop until others like you are free." The Shardari leader tilted its head, the light within its body flickering softly, as if considering Elias's words. Finally, it spoke. "If you truly wish to help, then you must destroy the barrier. It saps our strength, cuts us off from the universe, and suppresses our minds. Without it, we could be free once more." Elias nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "We'll find a way." The crew worked tirelessly, analyzing the barrier and searching for a weakness. The Shardari shared what little they could, their mastery of computation providing vital insights into the Dominion's technology. As hours stretched into days, the bond between the humans and the Shardari grew stronger. Finally, the breakthrough came. The barrier's power source was located deep within a Dominion outpost hidden on the planet's surface. It was heavily guarded, but the crew of the Resolute had faced danger before. Elias led the charge, his team descending to the planet in a daring mission to disable the barrier. The crystalline landscape was both beautiful and treacherous, the ground glittering like shattered glass beneath their boots. The Dominion forces fought fiercely, but the crew's determination and the Shardari's guidance proved unstoppable. When the barrier finally fell, the effect was instantaneous. The shimmering energy field dissolved into nothingness, and a wave of light erupted from the planet, as if the Shardari themselves were celebrating their liberation. Back on the Resolute, the crew watched in awe as the Shardari began to transform. Freed from the barrier's suppression, their crystalline forms grew brighter, their movements more fluid and powerful. It was as if they had been reborn. The Shardari leader appeared on the bridge once more, its light now blazing like a star. "You have done what we thought impossible," it said, its voice resonating with gratitude. "For centuries, we were prisoners. Now, we are free. And we owe that freedom to you." Elias inclined his head, his expression solemn. "We couldn't stand by and do nothing. But the fight isn't over. The Dominion won't stop here. They'll come for you again, just as they'll come for us." The Shardari leader's light flickered in agreement. "Then we will stand with you. Our minds, our knowledge, our technology, they are yours to share. Together, we will challenge the Dominion's tyranny." As the Shardari joined humanity's cause, Elias felt a deep sense of both triumph and sorrow. The liberation of the Shardari was a victory, but it was also a stark reminder of the Dominion's cruelty. How many other worlds had suffered similar fates? How many other species had been silenced, their potential crushed under the Dominion's heel? Elias stood at the bridge's window, gazing out at the now liberated planet below. The Shardari's crystalline cities sparkled like stars on the surface, a testament to their resilience and beauty. "We've seen only a fraction of what the Dominion has done," he murmured to himself. "But if we can free one world, we can free others. This is just the beginning." And as the Resolute prepared to set course for the next leg of its journey, Elias felt the weight of the mission settle more firmly on his shoulders. The road ahead would be long and perilous, but now, they were no longer alone. The Shardari, with their brilliance and strength, were a beacon of hope and a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, freedom could still be won. The waters of Oceanus Prime stretched endlessly, a shimmering expanse of deep blues and greens that seemed to pulse with life. From the Resolute's vantage point in orbit, the planet appeared alive, its vast oceans swirling with currents like veins carrying the lifeblood of a world. But beneath that beauty lay a darker truth: a world exploited, its people oppressed, its resources drained by the Dominion's relentless greed. As the Resolute descended into the planet's atmosphere, the crew was greeted by a breathtaking yet haunting sight. Massive mining platforms floated on the ocean's surface like mechanical parasites, their towering structures casting long shadows over the water. Below, the once pristine seas were scarred by machinery, their vibrant hues dulled by the pollution of Dominion industry. Elias stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the scene below. His fists clenched at his sides as anger simmered in his chest. "They've turned this world into a husk," he muttered, his voice low but filled with fury. "We have to stop this." The Aquarans, the native inhabitants of Oceanus Prime, had sent out a desperate call for help. A proud, aquatic species, their sleek, bioluminescent forms were perfectly adapted to the deep oceans they called home. But the Dominion had stripped them of their resources, forcing them into servitude to mine the precious minerals hidden beneath the ocean floor. The crew of the Resolute made contact with the Aquarans in the depths of the ocean, descending in specialized pods to reach their hidden sanctuaries. As the pods sank beneath the waves, the world above faded into a dream, replaced by an alien beauty that was both serene and otherworldly. The water was alive with light, glowing softly from the bioluminescent life forms that drifted through the currents. Schools of shimmering fish wove intricate patterns, their movements synchronized like a living dance. Towering coral structures rose from the ocean floor, their surfaces glowing with faint, ethereal hues. But even here, in this place of wonder, there were signs of the Dominion's presence: broken reefs, polluted waters, and the wreckage of Aquaran cities that had been destroyed in the struggle for control. The Aquarans emerged from the shadows of the coral forests, their forms gliding through the water with an elegance that seemed almost supernatural. Their bodies were sleek and streamlined, their skin glowing faintly in shades of blue and green. Their eyes, large and luminous, held a mixture of weariness and defiance. The leader of the Aquarans, a figure named Kalara, approached Elias as he stepped from the pod onto the ocean floor. Her voice resonated through the water, a melodic blend of tones that carried both sorrow and strength. "You've come from the stars," she said, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "But are you here to take, as the Dominion has, or to give us back what was stolen?" Elias met her gaze, his expression firm but empathetic. "We're here to help. The Dominion has taken from all of us, but together, we can fight back. Tell us what you need, and we'll do whatever it takes to free your people." Kalara studied him for a long moment, the light from her body flickering faintly as if mirroring her thoughts. Finally, she nodded. "If you truly wish to help, then you must destroy the mining platforms. They are the source of our suffering, draining our oceans and poisoning our home. But beware, the Dominion guards them fiercely. They will not let us go without a fight." The mission was dangerous, but the crew of the Resolute was no stranger to risk. Working alongside the Aquarans, they launched a coordinated strike against the Dominion's mining operations. The battle was fierce, the waters around the platforms erupting into chaos as Aquaran warriors and human soldiers fought side by side. The Aquarans moved through the water like shadows, their bioluminescent forms weaving through the currents with deadly precision. Their weapons, crafted from the natural materials of the ocean, glowed faintly as they struck, slicing through Dominion machinery with ease. Elias led his team into the heart of the largest platform, the structure groaning under the weight of its machinery. The air inside was thick with a stench of oil and metal, a stark contrast to the purity of the ocean outside. As they fought their way to the control center, Elias couldn't help but feel a deep sense of rage at the devastation around him. When the final platform fell, the ocean seemed to breathe again. The waters, once choked with pollution, began to clear, the vibrant colors of life returning as the Aquarans reclaimed their home. Kalara stood beside Elias on the ocean floor, her eyes glowing with gratitude. "You have given us more than freedom," she said softly. "You have given us hope. And for that, we will stand with you against the Dominion. The ocean remembers its friends, and so do we." As the Aquarans joined the growing coalition, another unexpected ally emerged. The Rift Wanderers, nomadic beings who lived in the spaces between stars, appeared aboard the Resolute without warning. Their forms were ethereal, constantly shifting as if made of starlight and shadow. "We have watched you," one of them said, its voice a whisper that seemed to echo from the edges of existence. "You fight for freedom, for unity. These are things we value. We offer you our aid." The Rift Wanderers brought with them a gift, their Riftgate technology, a means of instantaneous travel across the galaxy. With it, the Coalition could move swiftly, striking at the Dominion where they least expected. Elias stood on the bridge of the Resolute, gazing out at the stars. The Coalition was growing: humans, Shardari, Aquarans, and now the enigmatic Rift Wanderers. They were a diverse and unlikely alliance, united by a shared desire for freedom and a refusal to bow to the Dominion's tyranny. But as the Resolute prepared for its next journey, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the battles ahead would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. For now, though, they had hope and allies in the depths of both the oceans and the stars. Together, they would fight for a future where no one would be enslaved, where every voice could be heard, and where freedom would shine brighter than the stars themselves. The silence of space was deceptive, a vast emptiness that seemed to stretch forever. But within that silence, danger lurked. The Resolute floated alone in the void, its crew unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. Elias stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the distant stars. There was a tension in the air, a feeling like the calm before a violent tempest. He could sense it, though he couldn't yet see it. The Dominion would not let their victories go unanswered. Then, the alarms began to blare. A voice cracked through the comms, trembling with urgency. "Commander! 3 Dominion battle cruisers have entered the sector. They are heading straight for us." Elias's stomach dropped, but his face remained calm. "Battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady. "Prepare the shields. If they've come for us, we'll make them regret it." The Dominion cruisers emerged from the darkness like predators stalking their prey. Their massive forms were sleek and menacing, their hulls glowing with the faint light of their energy weapons. Each one dwarfed the Resolute, their sheer size a reminder of the Dominion's overwhelming power. The crew of the Resolute moved with practiced precision, their fear kept in check by their trust in Elias and each other. But even the most seasoned among them couldn't deny the odds. They were outnumbered and outgunned. As the Dominion ships closed in, their weapons began to charge, glowing like the eyes of a beast about to strike. The first blast came without warning, a searing beam of energy that lit up the darkness. The Resolute's shields flared to life, shimmering like a barrier of liquid light as they absorbed the impact. "Shields holding," one of the crew reported, though her voice was tight with tension. Elias gripped the edge of the console, his mind racing. The Dominion wasn't just here to destroy them, they wanted to send a message. A warning to anyone who dared to resist their rule. But Elias had no intention of being their example. "Activate the experimental shields," he commanded. and prepare the rift gate. We're not going to fight them on their terms. The Resolute's shields began to shimmer and shift, their energy patterns growing more complex as the experimental technology came online. The ship seemed to glow with a strange light, its form flickering at the edges as if it were slipping in and out of reality. The Dominion cruisers fired again, their weapons unleashing a barrage of deadly energy. But this time, the blast seemed to curve around the Resolute, their paths distorted by the experimental shields. The crew watched in awe as the ship danced through the onslaught, untouched by the Dominion's firepower. Elias's voice cut through the tension. Target their engines. We don't need to destroy them, just make sure they can't follow us. The Resolute's weapons came to life, their precision guided by the advanced computing technology shared by the Shardari. Beams of energy lanced out, striking the Dominion cruisers with pinpoint accuracy. Sparks erupted from the enemy ships as their engines sputtered and failed, their massive forms drifting helplessly in the void. But the battle was far from over. The Dominion's remaining cruisers closed in, their weapons firing relentlessly. The Resolute weaved through the chaos, its movements almost graceful as it evaded the enemy's attacks. "Rift gate is ready," one of the crew called out. Elias nodded, his mind already forming a plan. "Good. Let's give them something to remember." The rift gate technology activated, a swirling vortex of light opening in the space around the Resolute. The ship seemed to blur and shift, its form becoming indistinct as it prepared to jump. But instead of fleeing, Elias had another idea. "Take us behind them," he ordered. The Resolute vanished into the rift, reappearing moments later behind the Dominion cruisers. The enemy ships, caught off guard, scrambled to adjust their positions. But it was too late. The Resolute struck with precision, disabling their weapons and leaving them vulnerable. The Dominion fleet, once so imposing, now drifted helplessly in the void. The Resolute stood victorious, its crew cheering as the realization of their triumph sank in. Elias allowed himself a small smile, though his eyes remained fixed on the enemy ships. "They underestimated us," he said quietly. "And they'll pay for that mistake." But even as the crews celebrated, Elias felt a weight settle on his shoulders. The Dominion wouldn't take this defeat lightly. They would return, stronger and more determined than ever. On the bridge of one of the disabled cruisers, a Dominion officer watched the Resolute with a mixture of fury and disbelief. "How did they do this?" he muttered, his voice trembling with rage. "They're just humans. How could they defeat us?" But the officer's question went unanswered. The Dominion, in their arrogance, had failed to see the truth. This wasn't just a rebellion, it was the beginning of something far greater. A coalition of species, united by their shared desire for freedom, was rising against them. And as the Resolute disappeared into the rift, leaving the Dominion cruisers stranded in the void, Elias knew that their fight was far from over. But for the first time, he felt something he hadn't dared to feel before. Hope. The air aboard the Resolute was heavy with tension, a quiet unease that settled into every corner of the ship. Deep within its archives, Dr. Marlowe worked tirelessly, his face illuminated by the faint glow of ancient data streams. The crew had uncovered something during their last mission, something dark, something that reeked of secrets buried beneath centuries of Dominion lies. Elias entered the room, his presence commanding but quiet. "What have you found?" he asked, his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed his worry. Marlowe didn't look up at first, his fingers still dancing over the console. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and grim. "It's worse than we thought." The files were old, their language fragmented and cryptic, but Marlowe had pieced them together like a puzzle. What they revealed was a history that had been erased, a galaxy shaped by the Dominion's cruelty. Entire civilizations had been wiped out, their names and legacies obliterated from memory. Planets that once thrived with culture and life now existed only as barren wastelands, their inhabitants reduced to ash for daring to resist. They don't just conquer, Marlowe continued, his voice trembling with anger. They erase. They rewrite history to make it seem like those who defy them never existed. To the galaxy, these people are nothing more than myths. Elias stared at the screen, his jaw tightening. Images of lost worlds flickered before him, cities reduced to rubble, monuments shattered, and faces of people who had vanished into the void of forgotten time. The weight of it pressed against his chest, a suffocating reminder of what they were fighting against. This is how they maintain control, Marlowe said bitterly. Fear and silence. They make examples of those who resist and erase the evidence so no one else dares to rise up. For a moment, the room was silent except for the hum of the data streams. Then Elias spoke, his voice low but filled with resolve. We need to show this to the galaxy. If people see what the Dominion truly is, what they've done, they'll rise. They'll fight. Marlowe hesitated, his eyes flicking to Elias. If we do this, they'll come for us harder than ever. They'll stop at nothing to silence us. Elias met his gaze, his expression unyielding. Let them come. The truth is more powerful than their fear. We'll expose them, and when we do, they'll realize they can't erase us all. The crew worked tirelessly to decode and broadcast the files. Each piece of evidence was a dagger aimed at the heart of the Dominion's lies. As the truth spread across the galaxy, whispers began to grow louder. Species that had once cowered in fear began to see the cracks in the Dominion's facade. The stories of the erased civilizations became a rallying cry, a reminder that resistance was not futile, but necessary. Elias stood on the bridge, watching the stars. He could feel the shift, the growing unrest rippling through the galaxy. The Dominion had ruled through fear for too long, but now the tide was turning. They won't be able to hide anymore, he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. The galaxy will know. And they'll fight. The hall was vast, its walls lined with banners of countless colors and symbols, each representing a world that had broken free from the Dominion's grasp. The air buzzed with energy, a mixture of hope and determination as representatives from liberated species gathered for the first time. Elias stood at the center of it all, his presence commanding but humble. Around him were leaders of worlds once divided by fear but now united by a shared purpose. The coalition had grown beyond anything he could have imagined, and today, it would become something greater. Kael'ra, the Aquaran leader, stepped forward, her bioluminescent skin glowing softly in the dim light. We have suffered alone for too long, she said, her voice resonating with both sorrow and strength. But no longer. Together, we are stronger than the Dominion's chains. Together, we are free. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. The Shardari, the Aquarans, the Rift Wanderers, and countless others stood side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of their shared struggle. Elias took a deep breath, his voice steady as he addressed the gathering. Today, we take the next step. We are no longer scattered worlds fighting alone. We are the Galactic Confederation, a coalition of equals, united by our belief in freedom, equality, and the right to exist without fear. A roar of approval filled the hall, the sound echoing like thunder. It was a moment of triumph, a declaration that the Dominion's days were numbered. But there was no time to celebrate. Even as the Confederation was born, the Dominion tightened its grip on the galaxy, determined to crush the rebellion before it could spread further. The Resolute led the charge, its crew at the forefront of the Confederation's first major offensive. Their target was a key system under Dominion control, a hub of trade and military power. Liberating it would be a crippling blow to the Dominion's influence. As the Confederation fleet emerged from hyperspace, the Dominion forces were waiting. Their ships formed an impenetrable wall, their weapons glowing with deadly intent. But the Confederation was undeterred. Elias stood on the bridge, his voice calm but firm as he gave the order. All ships, focus fire on their command vessels. We break their chain of command, and the rest will fall. The battle that followed was chaos. The void of space erupted with light as ships clashed, their weapons tearing through the darkness. The Dominion fought with the ferocity of a cornered beast, but the Confederation fought with something stronger: hope. The Aquarans moved with precision, their sleek ships darting through the chaos like predators in the deep. The Shardaries' advanced technology turned the tide, their weapons cutting through Dominion defenses with ease. And the Rift Wanderers, with their mysterious Rift Gate technology, struck from unexpected angles, sowing confusion among the enemy ranks. Elias watched as the Dominion fleet began to falter. Their once imposing wall of ships was breaking apart, their formations crumbling under the relentless assault. He could feel the shift, the moment when the tide turned in their favor. Push forward, he commanded, his voice ringing with determination. We're almost there. When the final Dominion ship fell, a cheer erupted across the Confederation fleet. The system was theirs, a victory that would echo across the galaxy. But more than that, it was a symbol, a reminder that unity was stronger than fear, that even the most powerful empire could be brought to its knees when those it oppressed stood together. As the Confederation fleet regrouped, Elias stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his gaze fixed on the stars. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, victory felt within reach. We've shown them what we can do, he said softly, his voice filled with quiet pride. Now it's time to finish what we started. And as the Confederation prepared for the battles to come, the galaxy began to believe that freedom was not just a dream, but a destiny waiting to be claimed. The Dominion's Grand Assembly Hall was a monument to their power, a vast chamber of cold, gleaming metal and towering arches that seemed to reach endlessly upward. The air inside was stifling, heavy with tension and unspoken resentment. Representatives from every corner of the Dominion sat in their elevated seats, their faces veiled in shadow, their voices rising in anger and defiance. For centuries, this hall had been a place of unwavering control, where the Syndicate ruled through fear and manipulation. But today, cracks were forming in their foundation. You cannot ignore this any longer, a young voice rang out, sharp and defiant. It belonged to a representative of the Levani, one of the younger species in the Syndicate. Her silver eyes burned with fury as she stood, her slender frame trembling with emotion. Humanity has shown us what we've all feared to admit, that the Dominion is not invincible. That we are not powerless. Her words sent a ripple through the assembly. Murmurs grew louder, some in agreement, others in outrage. The old guard, those who had clung to power for generations, bristled at the challenge. An elder representative, his voice cold and disdainful, rose to respond. The actions of humanity are nothing more than the desperate flailings of a primitive species. They will fall, as all who oppose us have fallen before. But his words lacked the conviction they once carried. Even he could feel the shift in the room, the growing unrest that no amount of arrogance could suppress. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Leona Vera, Earth's representative. She was calm, her posture straight and unyielding, but her eyes were fierce. She waited for the room to quiet before she spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Primitive, she said, her tone laced with quiet defiance. You call us primitive, yet it is humanity who has dared to stand against you. It is humanity who has exposed the truth of your rule, the lies, the oppression, the fear you used to keep the galaxy in chains. The room fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone present. You claim to bring order, Leona continued, her voice growing stronger. "But what you truly bring is destruction. Entire civilizations erased, voices silenced, histories rewritten. And for what? To maintain your illusion of control? To cling to power while the galaxy suffers under your rule." Her gaze swept across the assembly, meeting the eyes of every representative who dared to look at her. The Confederation is not just humanity's fight. It is a fight for every species you have oppressed, every world you have broken. And we will not stop until the galaxy is free. A roar erupted from the assembly, but it was no longer unified. Some shouted in anger, their loyalty to the Dominion unshaken. Others cheered, their voices rising in support of Leona's words. The fractures in the syndicate were widening, and there was no turning back. Outside the assembly hall, the streets were alive with protests. Citizens of countless species filled the air with chants and cries for liberation. The once immovable Dominion was crumbling, its grip loosening as its own people began to rise against it. Leona stood tall as she left the assembly, her heart pounding with both fear and hope. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the Dominion's arrogance had been truly shaken. The Seal's Tien Verge was a place of haunting beauty, a swirling expanse of cosmic storms and radiant nebulae, where stars seemed to burn brighter against the endless void. It was here, in this desolate and awe-inspiring corner of the galaxy, that the fate of countless worlds would be decided. The Confederation fleet hung in the void, a patchwork of ships from liberated species, each one a symbol of defiance and hope. At the heart of the fleet was the Resolute, its sleek form glowing faintly with the energy of Riftgate technology. Elias stood on the bridge, his face grim but determined. The Dominion's fleet loomed ahead, a wall of darkness that seemed to blot out the stars. Their flagship, a monstrous vessel bristling with weapons, led the charge, its presence a stark reminder of the Syndicate's desperation. "They are throwing everything they have at us," Kalara said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "This is their last stand." "Then we'll make it count," Elias replied, his voice firm. He turned to his crew, his gaze sweeping over them. "This is it. The Dominion thinks they can crush us, but they are wrong. We've fought too hard, sacrificed too much, to back down now. Let's show them what unity can do." The battle began with a roar of light and sound. The Dominion's ships surged forward, their weapons unleashing a storm of energy that lit up the void. The Confederation fleet met them head-on, their formations tight, their movements coordinated. The Resolute darted through the chaos, its Riftgate technology allowing it to move unpredictably, striking from angles the Dominion couldn't anticipate. The Shardari ships, with their advanced computations, calculated every move with precision, their weapons finding weaknesses in the Dominion's defenses. The Dominion fought with the ferocity of a cornered beast, their desperation driving them to reckless aggression. But the Confederation fought with purpose, their unity giving them strength the Dominion couldn't match. Elias watched the battle unfold, his mind racing as he issued commands. "Target their flagship," he ordered. "If we take it down, the rest will fall." The Resolute led the charge, its weapons blazing as it closed in on the massive vessel. The Dominion's flagship was a fortress, its shields absorbing the Confederation's attacks with ease. But the Resolute was relentless, its crew refusing to give up. As the battle raged, the Confederation fleet began to gain the upper hand. The Dominion's formations broke apart, their ships retreating under the relentless assault. The flagship, once so imposing, now drifted in the void, its weapons silenced, its hull scarred and broken. Elias stood on the bridge, his chest heaving as the realization of their victory sank in. The Dominion's fleet was retreating, their forces shattered, their reign of terror finally brought to an end. The crew erupted into cheers, their voices filled with relief and triumph. But Elias remained quiet, his gaze fixed on the stars. The battle was over, but the fight for the galaxy's future was just beginning. As the Confederation fleet regrouped, a message was broadcast across the galaxy. The Dominion had fallen. The oppressed had risen. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, was free. Elias allowed himself a small smile, though his eyes remained thoughtful. "We've won," he said softly. "But now, we have to build something better." And as the Resolute drifted through the quiet void, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the galaxy itself was celebrating its newfound freedom. The Grand Hall where the Galactic Confederation was officially established buzzed with a palpable energy, an atmosphere thick with anticipation and hope. Representatives from hundreds of worlds, each one distinct in culture and history, gathered to witness the birth of a new era. The air was filled with a soft hum of conversations, a symphony of languages blending into a harmonious melody of unity. At the heart of the hall stood a massive table, its surface a shimmering holographic map of the galaxy, marking the territories of the newly liberated worlds. Around it, leaders from across the stars signed the Confederation's charter, their expressions a mix of solemnity and joy. Each signature was a promise, a commitment to shared knowledge, equality, and the pursuit of peace. Elias watched from the sidelines, his heart swelling with pride. The journey had been long and fraught with danger, but standing here, witnessing this moment, made every sacrifice worthwhile. Beside him, Celeste's eyes shone with unshed tears, her smile radiant with the triumph of their shared dream. As the final signatures were penned, a cheer erupted from the assembly, a wave of sound that rolled through the hall like a breaking tide. It was a celebration not just of victory, but of the hope that had carried them through the darkest times. The Resolute, the ship that had become a beacon of defiance and courage, was given a place of honor. Retired to Earth as a historical treasure, it stood as a testament to the power of one crew's determination to change the galaxy. Its hull, scarred from countless battles, now gleamed under the Earth's sun, a symbol of hope and resilience for generations to come. Elias, Celeste, and the crew gathered one last time aboard the Resolute, their hearts heavy with nostalgia. The corridors echoed with memories of laughter and loss, of whispered plans and bold declarations. Together, they reflected on their journey, the bonds they had forged, and the legacy they had created. Who would have thought, Elias mused, his voice filled with wonder, that humanity, once dismissed as primitive, would become a leader in this new era of galactic cooperation? Celeste nodded, her gaze drifting to the stars visible through the ship's viewports. "We've shown them what's possible when we stand together. This is just the beginning." As they bid farewell to the Resolute, the crew knew that their story was only a chapter in the greater saga of the galaxy's future. They had lit a spark, and now it was up to others to keep the flame alive. The galaxy was alive with a hum of exploration and discovery. Successor ships, inspired by the legacy of the Resolute, ventured into the unknown, their missions carrying the same spirit of hope and defiance. These ships, each one a testament to the Confederation's ideals, sailed through the stars, spreading the message of freedom and unity. On Earth, Elias watched the skies from a quiet hilltop, his heart filled with a deep sense of fulfillment. Now an admiral, his role had shifted from active duty to guiding the next generation of explorers and leaders. Yet, his connection to the Resolute and its mission remained as strong as ever. He often found himself reflecting on the journey, the battles fought and won, and the friendships that had shaped his life. The Confederation was growing, its influence reaching far beyond what he had ever imagined. Oppressed worlds were finding their voices, inspired by the stories of humanity's courage and determination. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Elias's thoughts turned to the future. The Resolute's successor was preparing to embark on a new mission, its crew ready to chart a course through the galaxy's mysteries. Standing there, Elias felt a familiar thrill, a reminder of the excitement and trepidation that had marked his own adventures. The new ship, sleek and powerful, bore the same message that had driven the Resolute: one ship, one idea, can change the fate of the galaxy. As the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Elias knew that the legacy of the Resolute would live on. It was a legacy of hope, of daring to dream, and of the belief that even the smallest voice could echo across the cosmos. With a final glance at the stars, Elias turned away, confident that the galaxy was in good hands. The journey would continue, and with it, the promise of a brighter, freer future for all.